this is the important part with my story, is that when my dad passed away, he was at one of his lowest points. And it was extremely heartbreaking. He had nothing. He had absolutely nothing. So when he called me for my birthday that I was out celebrating and I didn't answer, he left me 3 voicemails. 2 of them, he's singing me happy birthday. And the third, he tells me, I hope a million angels look after you. And those were not words that he normally used. So to me, my dad, who had nothing, left me a gift worth billions that has completely changed the way I live my life. Even the trajectory of my career, everything has been changed.
You just lost your loved one. Now what? Welcome to the Grief in Life podcast, where we explore this new reality through grief-colored lenses. Openly, authentically, I'm your host, Nina Rodriguez. Let's get started.
What if the last message someone left you became the reason you decided to truly live? Today's guest lost her father 3 days after her 18th birthday. She never got to say goodbye. However, he left her a voicemail saying, I hope a million angels look after you, words that reshaped the course of her life. Estrella has since traveled to over 50 countries, 40 of them solo. She's raised $21,000 for a stranger she met on a bus. And she is now co-founder of Last Farewells, so that no words are ever left unspoken. Her quote-unquote last message series has reached over 24 million people and moved millions more. She's a first-generation Nicaraguan American, a life enthusiast, and a heart-led entrepreneur, and someone who truly embodies what it means to embrace light after loss. I am so honored to have her here. Welcome to the Grief and Light podcast, Estrella.
Wow. Hey, that was a really cool intro. Oh my gosh. I felt like I was listening to my movie. Thank
It is
you.
all you. And for our listeners and anybody watching, I love Estrella on a personal level, on a professional level, all the things. I've had the pleasure of meeting her IRL. And one of the things that I wish for you to take away from this conversation is how, she's one of these people that restores your faith in humanity in every single way, just through the way that she lives and carries all of this light. But all of the story, in a sense, was born out of the loss of her dad. And I guess we'll start there. I want to say that phrase again. I hope a million angels look after you. And I would love for our audience to get to know that story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I grew up daughter of immigrants, and it's the same mentality that most Latino parents have, is like, go to school, get good grades, get a job. And so that's the path I was on. And so my family was definitely lower income. So that's the path I saw out. So I was always a focused, good, straight edge kid. And then when I was 17, my dad got deported. So at the time, the last time I ever hugged him, which I haven't told many people, or I don't think I've mentioned this on a podcast, but it was actually in a prison center, because they had already gotten him, and we went to go to visit him. It was like this very intimidating prison center in Texas, in Haskell, Texas. So we went there, and that's when I saw him in a jumpsuit, and I was able to give him a hug goodbye. They allowed like visitors come in, and then they kept him for a while, and then they deported him. So I just never in my mind thought that the last time I would see my dad, would be in this prison, but also like the last time I hugged him. And so there's a lot of things when it comes with death that we look back on and we look at and we see the last. And so for about 2 years, I was in the process. I was like, okay, let me go visit him in Nicaragua. I'll get my passport. So I got my passport. And then after my 18th birthday, I got the news that he passed away. And the thing with me and this timing that it happened is just, I had the best weekend of my life. Let me tell you, I won a homecoming queen on November 7th. On November 8th, it was my birthday. I went skydiving. On November 9th, I went to Orlando to go to this electronic music festival. I think, and the next day after, it was my 2-year anniversary with my high school boyfriend at the time. So it was just a series of high. And I get to school on Monday. And that's when I get called to the office about midday, and my mom walks in and my brother's there, and immediately like you have that sunken feeling like something's wrong. And so they were like, let's go. And I was like, no, what happened? Like, tell me. And they tell me, and I just start bawling. And it was one of those moments that I will just never forget, like the look on their faces, the moment that it is just so surreal, being in school. And so after that, my classmates had raised money so I could go back to Nicaragua. I'd never been before, but I was able to go to his funeral through the kindness and generosity of others. And my family, my siblings weren't able to go because of passports or because of money. So I fly alone. I meet all of the family I have there. I see this new country. It's my first time leaving the country. I go to my dad's funeral and I hold his hand and I'm just like saying, I'm sorry. I just vividly remember saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I was angry at him for other things in my life that towards the end, I felt like I didn't get the chance to forgive him. But with that voicemail, when I found it, I just remember thinking, like, wow, I'm so lucky because he loved me until the end. And so for me, I'm so passionate about just the sense of, loss giving us that wake up call. There's a quote that says, "We all have two lives, and the second one starts when you realize you only have one." So for me, I always say that at 18, in that moment when I'm experiencing my dad's funeral, is when my second life began, because that's truly when everything started to change.
Thank you for your willingness to be vulnerable and open and share all of it. The literal highs and followed by the lowest of lows in terms of, life feeling so grand and exciting and wonderful. And all of a sudden, this major loss that kickstarted like the second half of your life, if you will, at such a young age, because 18 is still very young. So I'm
Yeah.
obviously sorry for the loss of your dad and everything that the human side of us, really misses. And also I'm in awe of everything you've created since. So I know that you love traveling, and you did mention that it was the first time you got on a plane to go to Nicaragua. As somebody who's terrified of flying, hi, I thought about you during my last flight because I remember you posted something on social media about how being up there makes you feel closer to your dad, maybe because he wanted to be a pilot. Share a little bit about that and
Yeah.
your life as a traveler and where that has
Yeah. Oh my
taken
gosh.
you.
Well, my dad, like, he was a crazy courageous man. He was a coyote, so he helped a lot of immigrants cross the border through Texas. He was only 22 at the time, but he's going back and forth, going back and forth. But his real dream was to always be a pilot. So he went to some aviation classes in Nicaragua, moves to Texas. That's where I grew up. And he has to settle for being a car mechanic. So my whole life, I've known him as a car mechanic. I remember we would be at AutoZone and he'd be waiting outside and waiting to get clients. And so anytime I pass like Home Depot or AutoZone and see people waiting, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to help you guys. But yeah, his dream was to be a pilot and he just wanted to fly. And so I had dreams of, I guess, travel in the sense, but I think once I was there at my dad's funeral, I'm on the way back, and on the way back, I'm in the plane and I'm so close to the clouds. And so I write this letter to myself. Like I literally have it in my notes. I read it on my notes phone. And it literally says, "Dear Estrella," it's like third person, like, "You just attended your dad's funeral. Like you just saw what happened," like all these things. But it's a reminder, like, go after your dreams, like go travel the world, like make time for people. And so I read this whole thing for myself to just like be who you want to be in this life. And after that, it's almost like there was a flip in the switch. It was kind of like it went less focus on academic grades or numbers or things, which are still important, but less focus on that and more focus on the memories, the life, the celebrations. So I went to university. And first thing I did, I was like, let me sign up for the first study abroad program. I don't care if I have to take loans. I take out loans for the study abroad program. It's a program in Italy. And so I was only going to go for a month in the summer. But when I'm going and I'm in the process of all this, I see like, wait, like if I go 1 month, I still have 2 months left of summer. Like, why don't I just stay longer and go to these other countries? So it was originally going to be like one or two countries. But, you look at the map of Europe and then you see Italy and then you see everything around it. And
It's
you're
like
like,
right there. Like you may as well.
and you see how common it is. I start Googling, oh, it's so common to backpack. It's so common to go. So I try to get people to come with me. Nobody wants to go. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it by myself. So that summer changed my life because the first time leaving the country was to go to my dad's funeral. The second time really was to go to this study abroad program and then stay. And I ended up backpacking across 15 countries throughout the summer as a 19-year-old. And I loved it so much that I came back and changed my major to tourism. And because of that experience, I was able to find a semester program in Australia at one of the best tourism universities, one of the best universities with a tourism curriculum. And so then I did the same thing. I was like, well, if I'm going to Australia, it's actually cheaper to fly to Asia. Oh, wait, might as well backpack Asia. And then I'll take a flight to Australia and then go back to Asia and backpack. So by the time I graduated university, I had seen about 40 countries. And it was through that experience, like I remember seeing my dad, like he wanted to be a pilot. And I'm just so grateful at the fact that I got to live out that dream because of the hard things that he had to do. His life was at risk every single day. So to me, it's such a privilege to be able to live out the dreams that he wanted to do. So I'm not the biggest fan of flying, to be honest. I I get scared. I'm like, what the heck? This thing is in the air. But yeah, it is really comforting when you see the clouds, when you also think of like where you're going to go, who are you going to meet. There's just so many possibilities. And so to me, I'm really, really grateful. One time I was on this flight that left at 11:11 and my dad passed away on 11:11. So I was really excited to go on this flight. It was like, wow, I literally bought the flight because it's at leaving at 11:11 and it landed at 2:20, which is crazy because my dad died at 2:20. So I like numbers wise, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to be on this flight. So I wrote letters to the pilots and the flight attendants, and I just wrote a thank you one. And I just told them like my dad's dream was to be a pilot. I'm on this flight. It means a lot to me, and they were so grateful. So I do. I think all anything travel wise, it to my dad. None of this could have happened. Like even being born in the U.S., getting these opportunities to study abroad, being a citizen really obviously helped me have a strong passport. So it really is through his courage and sacrifice that I got to make this dream happen.
Well, it's so inspiring and amazing and speaks to the nature of the type of person that you are or have learned to be through your life experiences. You know, I just imagine somebody 19 years old backpacking and traveling solo on her own, just like daring, right? And you said something about how the loss of your dad shifted your priorities. And that is something that a lot of people talk about that, and I experienced it myself. Like one day I have a 10-year plan mapped out with my deliverables for the next quarter. And the next, I don't know left from right. And with time, speaking of the loss of my brother, and then with time, all of my priorities shifted. Everything that I thought mattered suddenly didn't. And it sounds like that gave you like wind underneath your wings, if you will, metaphorically and literally speaking, just to go out there and really be this life enthusiast. How did that lead to Last Farewells? And we'll go from there about
Yeah.
what is Last Farewells.
I never in my life thought I'd be an entrepreneur. I never thought I'd be trying to do a tech startup or in the death industry. Like, y'all, I majored in tourism. Like, I'm here thinking my whole life is going to be in travel. I worked in nonprofit travel, luxury travel. So I'm here thinking, like, that's my life. But, like, when you get the calling, you get the calling. And for me, one of the best opportunities I had all this travel experience at university. And one of my requirements at university to graduate was to have a full-time internship. So I started looking and I found this company called Go Abroad. And they were a travel search engine and they were based in Colorado. They didn't have any positions available, but I liked this company. So I pitched myself. I made a little portfolio of the maps and the people I've met. And I was like, this is my experience. This is what I could try to do. And so they gave me an opportunity. We got an interview and then they literally made the internship for me, the full-time internship for me. Like it didn't exist before. They made it happen. I moved to Colorado for a semester. I'm working at this travel company. And it was there that the CEO was in town one day. And he's like, oh yeah, let me have a lunch. Let me take the intern to lunch. And I tell him about this story about my dad's voicemail. And he tells me about this idea he's had since the 1980s, which is called Last Farewells, of you being able to create a last message that gets delivered after you pass away. And so he wanted to incorporate into technology. So I'm here like, yeah, I have a last voicemail from my dad. It's been the best thing ever to have. And so it was Troy that had this initial idea. And Troy also was the person who gave me my first job after university to backpack Latin America from Bolivia to Mexico, like 4 months straight, meeting clients for them. Because he's like, what do you want to do after you graduate? And I was like, I want to backpack Latin America. And he made that position for me. So this is really important to the story because Troy is, he's like that. He's like, all right, let's do it. And so I do this journey. I go to work for a luxury travel company. Years later, I reconnect with Troy because I had an idea. I saw my grandpa on his deathbed in Nicaragua. I saw the process of like funerals and how lack of personality they were, how formal they were. And so I was trying to start a celebration of life events company for my family to run and operate there so they could make money, but it could also help, be like a problem that people need solving. So I didn't know anything about the death industry. And I was like, oh, I remember my old CEO. Like, let me reach out to him for advice. He's like, yeah, I haven't talked to him in 5 years. He's like, yeah, let's get on a call. 5 minutes in, I'm explaining this thing. And then one of the first things he says, he's like, yeah, no, that sounds like a good idea. He's like, but wait, like, what if you revive Last Farewells, this idea I had back then that I tried to start, but like, what if you become the co-founder and you lead it and then you can go back later and then do the celebration of life? So he literally offers me this company in a way, like in the split of a second it felt. And I'm like, get off the call. And I had a friend next to me and I'm like, I just got offered the opportunity to be a
Like, I guess
co-founder.
I'm an entrepreneur now.
Yeah, and so it took me a few months. I was like, well, let me see. I was like, I need a few months. Let me think about it. And then I really thought about my life. And it's one of those moments where you really think like, yes, life is meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be lived. It's meant to have fun. But at the end of the day, for me now, it's meant to serve. It's meant to help. It's meant to guide. And be a light in dark places, right? So after that moment, it just kind of hit, and I was like, I think I need to try this out. Like I at the time I was at the best paying job I've ever had. It was a digital nomad job. It was easy. The people loved me, and I quit it. And I probably quit it too prematurely. But to me, it was kind of like if I'm gonna go all in, then I need to go all in. Well, actually, let me preface that. I spent a year trying to do the job and networking and learning about the startup ecosystem, the founder life. Because at the time I just had this vision, and then I made the decision to just quit the job because I realized I couldn't do both. It was so hard for me to try to concentrate on one thing when I had this vision calling me. So I took the leap, and that's when I started Last Farewells full time. I took Troy's idea, the concept he had, I rebranded it. I tried to just lead through storytelling. And so that's kind of what I've been doing now for the past couple of years. I've made many mistakes in the process, but in through it all, like it's really elevated my network 100%, but also pushed me. Content creation pushed me. I was not making any content at the time of this. Like I was very private, way more private than I am now. But it's been the biggest eye opener, and just like one of those things that like it's been so hard that if you look back if you told yourself 2, 3 years ago, you almost wouldn't even want to tell yourself to be like, yeah, go for it. But at the end of the day, it's brought me the best things. It's helped me find more faith as well. And so now everything that I do, I just want to make sure that the original purpose stands, which is like being that light in these dark places. And I think, Nina, I literally grief and light is what it is. And I think that sometimes that people need to remember that, like, yes, grief is dark, death is dark, all these things are dark, but there's so much good that can come from these dark places. And so I think we're meant to be in these spaces, especially if people look at our personality and think like, what are you doing there?
I agree.
We could easily have different jobs. But I think it's a reminder to people that like, someone needs to be reminded that there is better days ahead, and that this pain can be served into something far greater that you could ever imagine.
I do believe that, and I love that the space connected us, even despite our losses, because there is so much good that has come out of everything thereafter. How we make meaning, and it sounds like you've done just that. You With all of this, it sounds amazing, but I don't think people understand, like, to the degree of which you have created such a beautiful space for people to see themselves, see the different ways you can make meaning, see what goodness and kindness looks like, see what a path of faith looks like. So I want to get to all of that, but before we get to, like, your content and your faith journey and all these other things, I do want to kind of give the people a better understanding of what is death tech. I go into lastfarewells.com, and then what, right? Like, what does the platform offer?
Yeah. So I guess the way I like to break it down is like, we have things that are mandatory, like taxes. Like those are the things that need to get done because we're required to. And then we have things like end of life planning, right? End of life planning, you hear it all the time, but what does it really mean? It basically just means you're going to take actions that are gonna just in case you die, this is what's going to happen. And so most people think of wills, they think of estate plans, or they think of just the legal component as well, the financial or legal. So that's really what most people think is like, oh, I need to have a plan in place in case I die. This is where my money's going to go. This is where my thing's going to go. So what Last Farewells is, and I'll get into death tech right now, but Last Farewells is the emotional component. So on Last Farewells, people can create their last messages and memorial page that's delivered after they pass away. And last messages includes letters, videos, and audio messages that you can schedule for upon your death, on a special milestone like a birthday or wedding, or on a specific day, like say May 8th was important. Those are the moments that can be scheduled. And then your memorial page has your life story with your last music playlist, your last photo album, a last public message for everyone to see. So the platform itself is meant to fill the emotional gap that current end of life planning tools are usually missing. Like most people will think I'm most people don't even plan for end of life because they don't really believe they have anything. Like my mom is still a housekeeper. She's never gonna go pay a lawyer or even get a will done because she's gonna be like, why? Like, what do I have left? But this is the important part with my story is that when my dad passed away, he was at one of his lowest points to the point where they found him with holes in his shirt. And it was extremely heartbreaking. He had nothing. He had absolutely nothing. So when he called me for my birthday that I was out celebrating and I didn't answer, that's when he chose to leave me the voicemails. And he left me 3 voicemails. 2 of them he's singing me happy birthday, super common thing. Estás en la mañanita. And the third, he tells me, I hope a million angels look after you. And those were not words that he normally used. So to me, my dad, who had nothing, left me a gift worth billions that has completely changed the way I live my life. Even the foundation of my career, like the trajectory of my career, everything has been changed. So that's what Last Farewells is, and what Death Tech is. You have all types of tech. You have like finance tech, like you have legal tech. Death Tech is really technology that's going to help you get these plans into place. So now in this industry, it's really just different technical platforms that are going to help you either plan your financials better, plan estate plans better, make it just a lot easier. And so we're in the death tech industry because we've built the end of life planning platform for this emotional gifts, I call them. I really believe they're the greatest gifts that anybody could leave behind, regardless of where you are, like legally or like financially, especially. Even if you have nothing, like you have a gift that when you pass away is going to provide so much comfort and so much healing to someone. Because as you know, and as many probably listening know, the moment someone passes away, our initial instinct is to be like, I want them back. I want to hear from them. Like I want to call them, like, and you just crave their voice. You just crave their comfort. You crave their words. And so there's grief support groups, there's therapy, there's all these things you can do, but sometimes it really just take listening to directly from the person, and most people don't ever get that chance. So that's what Last Farewells is, an end of life planning platform for last messages and more delivered after you pass away. But we built it on a tech platform so that way it can be done by anyone, really. Right now it's in English, but people can still record their messages in whatever language they want. Our long-term goal is for it to be in 100 plus languages worldwide.
Thank you. I often say the hardest goodbye is the one you never got to say. And especially when you experience sudden loss, unexpected loss, or you weren't there for the transition, even if you knew the person was in the dying process, it is so incredibly painful. I've held hundreds of conversations with grievers, and that is one of the top three pain points where people say, I live with this desire to say goodbye. I never got to say goodbye, and that hurts for years and years on end, well past the wills and estates and insurance and all the things. The part that lingers is that heartache of not getting to say goodbye. And what I love about Last Farewells, because I've had the privilege of going in and creating some messages and seeing the infrastructure and learning about it and seeing your growth, is that the person has agency. So much of grief work, if you will, to give it a label, is returning agency to the griever and to the family. And what a beautiful way to be able to leave your last message as you wanted it delivered, as you wanted it said, right? You might think you have to be older or in hospice or ill or something like that. You don't. My brother was 32 years old, newly minted, less than 24 hours of being a 32-year-old. Had he done something like this, that last message would mean everything. Absolutely everything. It would have healed parts of me. And now I live with more questions, and that's okay. You also learn. But what if you had the opportunity to say things on your own terms, and the person receiving it, those of us left behind, receive it as you meant to deliver it? And you actually did this with a family in Texas who, yeah, I'll let you tell the story. It's a beautiful story. Sad, obviously, because there was a loss, but very beautiful. And it gives an example of what Last Farewells offers,
Yeah.
before, during, and after.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before our platform was even live, I really just wanted to find someone I could help. So I put a call out asking for, hey, if you know anybody with a terminal illness or diagnosis, and I got connected to a person named Nick. And so instead of just like back and forth, like here's a link to our beta platform, test it out. Like I was like, nah, I'm getting on a plane. So I flew and I put together this experience, if you call it like a day experience, where I literally was so intentional. I was like, "What's your favorite breakfast? What's your favorite coffee order?" So I picked up their favorite breakfast, got in the car, went to their home, and set up this experience. Got to know them first. We did a little meditation, and then I helped him create his last messages. So he created about 9 for his wife, for his kids, for his family. And then just to up it, I got his favorite music and his favorite cake and his favorite pizza. And then I surprised him. I'm like, go hide in the room. And I literally put up a little simple decor. But because of my experience in the travel industry, I was able to connect with the NASA Space Center, and they sponsored his bucket list item of seeing a rocket launch. And so that was an incredible way of showing me, one, like, yes, these things are hard. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, it is hard creating your last words and your last messages. But at this, the gift that comes after too, as well, as like was thinking like the more fun things, like what is my favorite songs, what are my favorite photos, what is still on my bucket list. And so I'm really glad I asked him that, and was able to do that, because he ended up going with his son maybe 6 months later to the Orlando for the rocket space launch. And then a few months after that, he passed away. It was a year. He'd only been diagnosed with his cancer a year. And in about a year, he passed away, and he was only 38. So when people think that you have to be older to do this, obviously, like, that's the most common misconception. And that's why most people will put it off. The thing is, like, you see all the car accidents happen, you see the young people passing away, you see the unexpected accidents. And I think those hurt more. And so for me, Last Farewells is really like life insurance. Like, you do it just in case. And I think that's where I'm trying to build up the platform. So end of life planning may for people who've already done the financial or legal planning, they'll understand it more. But I want to hit an audience of people who've never done anything and get them to come in, because what we can do is get them to start planning and then educate them for the other things that are still really important. But I think Last Farewells can be a really good entry point for someone to start the end of life planning process. But I also do think that it doesn't have to necessarily be, it has to be masked in a way of like a more celebratory thing. So, like, what's your bucket list? What's your favorite music playlist? So I think there are certain points to someone who just never would have planned otherwise, that they want to lean in more to the living life, creating memories, traveling, doing all their bucket list experiences. And so that's kind of where I believe the direction with Last Farewells is headed. Yes, end of life planning. But what I've seen in the death tech industry is that most of the startups, we're not competing with each other at all. If anything, we're competing with the psychology of humans, of just naturally not wanting to think about your death, not wanting to do something that's hard. And so that's why a lot of startups have failed. And it is extremely hard to create a business model that can work here. So I think Last Farewells are the advantage I've seen is at least on the media side and the content creation side, because you put something out there, a person's last message, it's instantly captivating, and people will cry, and they'll listen, and they'll think like, I wish I had this, or wow, this makes me think differently. So I think I'm about to start leaning more on the media side of like this bucket list items, like how do you create last messages, how do you make media that can stop and be super authentic and help people and inspire people, and remind people that no day is guaranteed. So that's kind of the direction I'm going in with Last Farewells. Tech is important too, but I think the media is the thing that can educate the masses right now, until then they start trickling into the tech portion.
Isn't that ironic how talking about death and even thinking about death can also amplify your living experience, your life experience? And it sounds like that is that contrast that, hey, yeah, it's hard to make these messages. It could be very confronting. It could be very scary even. And also, there is this whole side of, again, having that agency and how you go, how you live, and and what you leave behind, all that legacy aspect. I want to touch on, making those messages, because I know that when you sat with Nick, the gentleman we just spoke about, that maybe it was a little bit hard for him to make these messages, because in that moment when you have to hit record, it just gets very real. So how did you soften this? How did you make it more inviting
Yeah,
than
absolutely.
confronting?
So I first tried to start like, Nick, what's your general message to the world? That was a mistake, because that was hard. He was like, and I was like, I got you. Like, let's start with a simpler one. Like, why don't you create a happy birthday message for your wife? And so that was it. And we got fun. We got a candle. We found her favorite ice cream in the fridge. It was a simple 20-second message, maybe and he sings happy birthday, and that's it. And then, okay, let's do the same for your son. Okay, how about your son's future milestones like graduation, all these things. So doing those little fun short messages, it's almost like you're sending a text to a friend, but it's not really their birthday or that milestone already. I think for some people it's a lot easier, and it's like I tell people, it's just in case. Like I hope you're there. I don't want anybody to die. Like, and it's gonna happen, but I don't want it to happen, but it's gonna happen. And at the end of the day, like your family, the days they're gonna miss you most are on those days that I just mentioned, like the birthdays, the milestones, the weddings, and Christmas, New Year's Eve. So why not just like, prep it in advance? Takes like 15, 20 seconds. These are micro messages, by the way. This is not a long 10, 20, 30-minute message. Like you just say from the heart. And then so after we did some of those, he was able to just finally sit down, and I left the room. I left the phone recording, and I just left the room, and he recorded what was from the heart. And so anybody who's listening can actually go listen to his last message now on our Last Farewell's Instagram. It'll say, I think, Nick part 2, or Nick's last message. You'll see him, but like his message is super beautiful, and it really is just a reminder that life is short. Go, be with the ones you love, forgive, like just enjoy this life while we can. So I definitely think all to answer your question, I think starting with what's simpler can help you get in the mind space for it. Now, for myself, I went to Sunrise to record my own last message, and I set up a blanket. I put some flowers around, and it was one of those things where I almost had to do it twice, because the first one is like the awkward, like, oh, if you're watching this, I just passed away. And then you say these things and it starts flowing, and I'm like, okay, cool. I practiced. Let me do it again. And that's the beauty of Last Farewell, is like no message is concrete. It's always a draft. Like these are not getting sent. It's just there. If you don't like it, you can always update it or delete it later. And I think it is really important to update, because you constantly have new people in your lives come in, people leave. So it's good to just kind of like be a check-in point. It doesn't have to be something you log in every day, but maybe like once a year, once every 6 months. And then that's where we're trying to just improve the tech, where people can get the reminders, and they can just have those moments to pause. And I think sometimes you just really need to be reminded. Like I wish, though, if it was me, I'd be lobbying for the laws of like making this mandatory and making people do this like by force. So I am trying though to get this into firefighters, military, people who have high risk careers that are constantly putting their lives on the line. To me, that makes sense, where it can be mandatory, that it can still be a really good benefit for their loved ones just in case.
I love that you also said that it's something that could be updated. So there's no finality to it until it's actually final, right?
This is
And
a
we
good
could always
idea.
we could always like adapt. And honestly, in taking those 20 seconds to figure out what do you want to say, it could also help you put things in perspective about how do you want to live and what do you want to leave behind. So I really love that. If people wanted to log in and see the platform and, engage with last farewells, how could they do that?
Yeah, you can go to lastfarewells.com right now, and would just highly recommend you do it from a laptop or a desktop. It's on the website. You can create a free account. If you need more storage, there's a one-time fee for a premium account. So that's pretty much straightforward. But even the free account, you can still create right now 6 free messages, and then create your memorial page, which I really like. The memorial page, it's like a mix of Facebook and MySpace to me. Like you put your last quote. Mine is a verse, which is "Let all that you do be done in love." And I picked my favorite photo because, let me tell you, when you die, they're gonna pick the photo they think is good of you, and sometimes they end up with a Facebook profile picture
From
from
like 20 years
2011.
ago.
They'll put the angel wings on it. So if you rest assured, like if you want to, I actually just made a video about this the other day, but I take so many photos. I have 110,000 photos and videos, and some of the photos and videos, like one I took about my grandpa, ended up on his tombstone. So that's literally the photo they've used on his tombstone. And then a photo that they took of my uncle, ended up on his tombstone. So all that to say is, I don't know if they would have chosen the photos, but it was chosen for them. So I think that's why it is important to like kind of dictate or show people, like, these are my favorite photos. Just so y'all know, please don't do me dirty.
Please don't choose the weird pictures. Like, this is the one I want to use.
Yeah,
I
you'd be
love that.
surprised. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. And, on the content creation side and the 110,000 photos and all the things, you do such a beautiful job with content. It sounds like you're the family archivist, like
Yeah.
unofficial family archivist as well. But you create incredible content that is so inspirational and it's so hope-filled and it's so honest. And none of this is forced. This is just an extension of who you are and the work that you put out into the world and the energy that you put out into the world. So let's start with this just to give people an idea of what I'm talking about. You adopted a 91-year-old grandmother from the
7,
street. Yeah. Tell us
97.
about her.
So yeah, no, I was going through
You
the
said,
day.
I'm sorry, 97.
Yeah.
97. Yeah.
Yeah. I was having a day where I just like entrepreneurship is a roller coaster every day. So it was just when we were like, am I qualified for this? What am I doing? I was like, let me go on a drive. Let me go get something to eat. So I'm literally at a stop sign and I could either go left and I could go right. I didn't know where I was going. I was like, "Ugh, let me just go left." And so I started driving and then I see this older woman walking across the street and I'm thinking in my head, like, wow, she's moving very slow. I'm like, she's really old. I started thinking about my own grandma who thankfully is still alive. But I was like, wow, that was why my grandma wouldn't want her to be walking the street alone. I just kept driving though. I was like, let me go to Chipotle. But there was something in me that was like, oh, just turn back. So I turned back and I started looking for her. I go and I don't see her. She disappeared. I go into this pharmacy to look for her. I asked, and then nobody saw her. I'm like, that's so weird. How did she walk? She was walking so slow. I was so confused. And so that's when I look across the street and I see that she was sitting at the bus stop. So I get in my car, park the car, get down, ask her if she wants a ride. She was, I didn't know how old she was at the time, but she accepts the ride to where she was going. She was going to go run some errands. So I'm taking her to run these errands. She's like, oh, you're going to do this? Like, why are you doing this? And I'm for free. And I'm like, no, it's because you reminded me of my grandma. And so I'm here just hanging with her. I buy her like a Wendy's meal and we go back. I drop her off at a home. She invites me to her home. We share a meal. It's just only to find out that she's actually from the same city and from my dad, Leon, Nicaragua, which was crazy. And so I just thought it was a crazy video, but also like I had always made kind of content like for a year before, but it was always voiceovers and post. But this was the first time I ever vlogged. Like this was the first time I got my phone and started documenting an action that I was doing in the moment. So I just recorded it and then I wasn't gonna post it. But the next day I put it together in like 20 minutes and overnight it went viral. It hit 3 million views. Everybody was like, how can we help? How can we help? People were asking to donate. And so I created a GoFundMe and the goal was 5,000. It hit 22,000. It got picked up on People Magazine, The Today Show. And it was just truly simply like a miracle. It brought me over 25,000 followers, which I only had like 3,000 on Instagram at the time. It started, but the cool thing was too, it also started bringing people to Last Farewell's Instagram, which was in my Instagram bio. And so Univision picked it up and I got invited to speak about Last Farewell's in Spanish, which was crazy too, because I
It's
was
not easy.
most comfortable in
Switch.
English, but it was like, yeah, I met Pamela Silva, who's an incredible person, and I got to speak about Last Farewells, tell people about my dad's voicemail, tell people my story. So that moment itself, it really was just, it came from an honest place because it's not like I was going on the street. I'm going to go find someone to give a ride to for a video. No, not at all. I'd never done anything like that before. I'd always been nice. I always helped the homeless. I just never shared about it. And it's one of those things that it's kind of tricky because you want to do things from an authentic place, but you also don't want to make it seem like you're capitalizing on anyone else's struggle. But at the same time, with content, you also have to remember that it doing something can also bring light to these persons. So, example of what I just posted today. I saw my local coffee shop owner that her dad died and died about a month ago. I was meaning to reach out. I never got the chance to send the message and I felt bad. I was like, let me bring some flowers. But now I'm thinking about it as a video because I was like, you know what? I know she's going through grief, but I know she's also a business owner and I know she definitely wants more clients and customers because I've spoken to her about it in her coffee shop. So I was like, let me vlog this because then I can do this nice act of kindness, show people, but also share about her coffee shop. So it's one of those things where, I don't want to feel like I'm capitalizing on someone's grief or like even for views. It's not even about the views. It's so I can educate you about this amazing person who's going through a tough time right now, who needs the support from the communities. I think that's the beautiful part of content. And I think acts of kindness have always been something that have called to me. I love strangers. I've always loved making friends with strangers on the streets. And I've always naturally like taken content of things, But it's pretty cool to kind of like be in the position of now that I'm switching gears. I'm like, how can I do more acts of kindness? How can I reward more people? How can I get companies to pay me to give away their money and then take terminal people on their bucket list items? Like that's how my brain is thinking now. And it before it's like again, you don't want people to think that you're doing it for the wrong intention, but at the end of the day, there is a possibility where this can help so many people, help people who would have never had these experiences otherwise, um, or or just even feel seen, and then also like help the greater good of the mission, which is for Last Farewells. What I'm trying to do is like get people to live, like get people to leave no words left unspoken, follow your bucket list dreams, and all these things. So I've really enjoyed the content making process, and seeing it is a strength of mine, but I've not gone as in because I'm focused on the tech portion. So that's why I said I'm moving forward. I definitely want to triple down on the tech, on the media component.
Well, you do a fantastic job. And one point I want to highlight is that people can sense if somebody's being authentic or if they're just doing it for clicks and views. Your authenticity shines through. You could tell this is who you are. And like you said, so much good has come out of your videos. Even in a world where we are quite literally bombarded on social media with tragedy and awful things and whatever, whenever I see one of your posts come through, just even in that small act of seeing something beautiful and kind and humanity in display is already a beautiful way for good energy to ripple out into the world, if you will, as an example of a lived experience. Further than that, you got help for the 97-year-old grandmother. If if I'm not mistaken, you even got her house cleaned or like
Yeah,
moved to a
yeah.
different location. So you literally you are changing people's lives through these videos, I guess is what I'm getting at. And
Thank
if you
you.
want to say anything about that, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still visiting her. I saw her a couple weeks ago. She smiles. I bring her. She loves McDonald's, by the way, not even Wendy's. I still visit her, but we had she was living alone. We got her place deep clean because it was extremely dirty. But then we got her a caregiver. And now we got her support, and now she's living in a much better place with constant support, very very clean. So her life definitely did change, and I think that's one thing where um a lot of people are scared to post, but the thing that you can post can quite literally change someone's life or give someone that's a spark or an idea or an inspiration. So it's actually quite the way someone told it to me is like it's quite selfish if you don't post because of your own ego, which makes you think like fear of judgment. What are people going to think of me? Are they going to perceive me at this light? At the end of the day, when you know what your vision is in this life, and that then nothing else should matter. Like there is always going to be noise. There's always going to be people that think you did for the clicks. You'll get comments of people thinking you're not being genuine, but as long as you are coming from at it from a different place, then that's the most important part. And to me, that's where my faith has really tripled down on my integrity. I was never really religious or even like had faith before when I started Last Farewells or during the process of grief. During my 20s, I went on like, I'm going to do whatever I want in this world. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to make it happen con dinero, sin dinero. I'm going to do it. And I did. At the time, like I was relying on, I was a strong believer in the universe and manifestation. But the key differentiator that I've learned now in that is that when you are constantly believing that you are the source of power, it's all on you. It's all, are you thinking positively enough? Are you doing this enough? It's you. It's from here. So on the days that are really down, it's almost like you feel even worse because you're like, no, I need to change my mindset because it's all on me. I can control my destiny. So I came from a point of exhaustion where I just felt like I'm still navigating the startup world. I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. And so that's at the time a year ago now that really God found me. Like I was never looking for it. A person came into my life, started praying over me. I walked into church and the message was, you do not have to change for God to love you. God's love will change you. And I just started crying because I was like, you mean it's not me? It's someone like I can just give it to God. And that's literally what they say in Christianity is like, you just surrender. Like when you are broken, that's when God can do his work on you. And so to me, this past year has really been rebuilding my whole vision in life, but now with a perspective of faith, which for me, I'm feeling so much more called to serve, and just to be that light again, to be that light in these dark places. But now my foundation is much stronger than me. Like, yes, I lived and I traveled and I had all these fun times, but I still had anxiety. I was still scared. I didn't feel the peace. And I think now that having that faith for me, like in God and Jesus, has really given me a sense of direction. Even if I still don't know what I'm doing, it's like, well, now there's a larger purpose. Now when I'm scared, like the Bible literally says, fear no man. And I think that's very beautiful, because when it comes to posting content, it's extremely easy for people to not want to post anything because they fear the judgment, they fear what's going to come. But like, what about the greater things? Like, God literally can do miracles like that. And it showed it to me with the 97-year-old. Overnight, millions of views, thousands of dollars coming in, not for me, but like for someone else. And just the power of like what really is possible, like infinite things are possible. And I think having that belief has really shaped my integrity. And that's why my memorial page quote says, let all that you do be done in love, as what is said in the Bible. And so I've really taken that a lot more seriously. I've tried to have a lot more integrity. And I think that's really just like my personal vision, regardless of like, what can I do to serve, to help, to guide others, to be there, and to just go beyond my own pride and ego and my own desires, really. But yeah, that's where the faith component has come into all of this.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And there's so much there. I want to like rewind a little bit to the 97-year-old, because that's just one example of many acts of kindness that you have published on your page. So if people wanted to see more of this, where can they go?
And you can go to my Instagram, Estrella Q95. By the way, y'all, I had no idea this would happen, but when things started going viral, you start getting all these followers, but you get all your notifications are like likes, small like every like my if I go to my feed now, I can only see the past hour. So now that I have a lot more followers, I can't even see who's really following me. Like, and I feel bad because I think I only have 30 something thousand followers. I can't even imagine millions or hundreds of thousands. And I'm here thinking like, oh my gosh, really cool, amazing people. Everybody's cool and amazing. But like, I'm sure I'm missing new potential friendships, and they probably just think I didn't follow back. Listen to me, y'all. I can't even see it. I don't even know who's there. So I just want to preface this because, I have followed my fair share of larger creators, and I'm thinking like if I can't, like everything gets lost. And so, yeah, that's where it's definitely been an interesting journey. And my goal is to increase it, though, increase it for the greater good, because I know that though it is a vanity metric, as long as I don't get sucked into the vanity, like thinking like relying on the numbers or feeling like my validation comes from these numbers, then that's most important to me, because then what good can come from this content that I can create, especially with acts of kindness, strangers on the street, helping the terminally ill, helping the elderly. I think that I have in my brain like I can't even explain to you what ideas I have until they're done. So that's what I do now. I pray truly before even like this one of the videos that I did. It was my dad's birthday and my dad passed away, and I wanted to find a stranger on the street who had the same birthday, which kind of sounds crazy. You're like, you're going to keep looking until someone's birthday. And so I got a sign and I got a little cake, and the sign said, "Is today your birthday?" And I said a prayer. I said, "God, you connect me to the right person who needs this. Like, please, I know they're out there. Please let it be the right person and let it be fast." And I kid you not, 6 minutes later, I found a man who was only 2 years younger than my dad, would have been 2 years younger than my dad, from the same country, Nicaragua. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Angels. I hope a million angels. He said that prayer, and he said it with his chest in that voicemail, because that's really what my whole life has been. Even when I didn't have faith, I was always protected. I was always guarded. So whoever is going right now and listening to this, if you made it to this end, like, I know you're here probably because you're a griever. And I know in the darkness, it it can be so over consuming sometimes. So I do encourage you to find faith, because you're not alone. And it sounds so cliche, but you really are not. But when we start thinking that we can do this, we can get out of the pain, we can do it, like, it's exhausting. And I think that's been the beautiful thing of faith, is that we're not alone. And we have, like, for me, like, I believe we have God. And the beautiful, most thing that I can say now is that, like, I'm for 11, 12 years now, I've not had a father, like a earthly father. My dad's dead. But when God found me, it was like having a new father. And he's always been there. And it's just like the perfect father, regardless of how imperfect my dad was, because everybody makes mistakes. Like, this is a father who's never going to lead me, who's always going to be here by my side, who's going to hear my prayers, who's going to guide me. But he wants me to want to have the relationship with him. So I think, grief is a moment where a lot of people do end up finding a relationship with God, even if it's a grief of a breakup. Those moments where we're so brokenhearted, like, God literally calls us, like, come brokenhearted and weary, like, come rest on my shoulder. So yeah, I think it's extremely beautiful.
If you are watching or listening, I am sure that you are fully inspired by now in all the ways, not just with the story, her personal story and content and all the things, but with the story of faith. And I will be honest, Estrella, um, I've seen grief take people either way, right? Like I've seen people either question their faith and
Yeah.
almost be resentful towards their faith, whatever that faith may be. And also people get closer in their faith or find a new path or find a new closeness, right? In the times that we're living in, even with the topics of the way immigration's being handled, with the way that Christianity is being weaponized, with
Yeah.
the way that people speak and yield like throw morality at each other as if it's like a I don't even know.
Like a
It just
judgment.
feels very messy right now, right?
Super.
And it is hard to, um and from my perspective, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes I start questioning things like, is this a time to deepen my faith or is this a time to really believe what's happening because it feels very mixed and muddied. It feels muddied right now.
Yeah.
I will be honest, you are the only person that has made me look at faith and say, "That is what it's about." Like, that is
Oh,
what
wait.
I want, and that is, like, that's what it's about, and you don't do it through preaching, you don't do it through anything other than the way in which you embrace life and the way that you carry yourself and the way that you literally live very authentically through the world. So when I say you are a light, you are a star. Her name for anybody in English, Estrella means star. So she is a star. She is a shining star, a bright light for so many. It is not hyperbole. This is quite literally who she is. So do yourself a favor, go to the show notes, follow all the accounts, if nothing more than to be inspired, but you will get much more than that. And definitely, definitely go to Last Farewells, play around with it, create an account. I believe it's free to create an account, right?
Yeah, yeah, let me send me an email message or however on Instagram, and if you have any questions, I'll try my best to get back to you all. But Nina, really quick, I want to touch on your point. I want whoever's listening, yo, I did not like Christianity. I thought it was so judgmental. I thought it was so hypocritical. I was like, how are they going to preach this? Exactly what you're feeling, the judgment. And again, like it really was. I think what's happening now is that like you see so much good, no, so much evil that it's almost like so alarming. But to see so much evil, you also have to see how much good can exist as well. And so that I think God is calling in a new wave of people who have had just different experiences. And it is yeah, to modern, like to Christianity, we see where it is being weaponized. And all people can think like, well, how can you preach this and say this, right? For sure, those are valid questions. But I think first and foremost, at the end of the day, it's what is your relationship with God? Like, even if you believe in God, but if you do, what is your relationship? And that's the first step. It's like just pray. You just pray to God. I'm not even telling anybody to go to church. Just have that talks. But I want to really quick before we end, I want to share a story with you about my dad and Last Farewells. When I thought about joining this, I just saw so many signs of like, this is my path. It wasn't just the voicemails. I found a photo album that my dad had left at my grandma's 20 years ago. And in it, he wrote, para que me recuerden siempre, which means so you can remember me forever. And then on the back, he writes, I'll always be in your hearts. And again, so you can remember me forever. He wrote that twice in his book, had photos I'd never seen of him. So imagine Last Farewells has this memorial page feature where you can create a photo album. And so that's one. So the voicemails, this photo album, but there's a third story that I've never shared. My dad had a younger brother. His name was Iscar. And on one of the visits, Iscar, they were crossing the border. Iscar went with a different person. And in that process, he drowns and he died. And so he never wanted to cross the border. He never wanted to live in the US. So a week before, he's in Mexico with my mom. He asked my mom, "Can you take me to the post office?" And so she's like, "Yeah." So at the post office, he spends hours writing all these postcards to his mom, to his girlfriend, just to a bunch of people. He's a 17-year-old kid. All these letters, and he did not want to go. And he ends up going on he has to go, and he dies. And so afterwards, everybody's receiving, his girlfriend receives these postcards, his mom receives these postcards. So I learned this story maybe a few months ago where I was just so shocked. But my dad experienced sibling grief. He lost his younger brother. Everybody loved the younger brother. It was the youngest baby, the baby of the family. And now my brother's named after my uncle. But to see that story played out, like I can only imagine my dad's grief, but also like that's where to me, like Last Farewells felt so personal. wow, how do I even explain these signs of like why I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing? Like it wasn't just my own experience, but it was my dad's experience, or even just like my uncle having these postcards, sending them out, and he was 17, didn't think any, like, took a risk, didn't end up properly, but his family got these letters and videos. So those are just some signs. But like, like I'm so proud of you and everything, the way that, you're making your brother so proud, and he's such an angel and guiding your light as well. I just know that like the people that you're going to impact more with all these podcast features, and even more in-person community, everything you're going to do. Like, I just know like it really, we never would have thought we'd be in this industry, but again, we were chosen. And I really do believe like it truly is a calling. There's one thing that I can leave off. The Bible says, he will qualify. God's not going to call the qualified, meaning he's not going to choose the most qualified person. He is going to qualify the called, meaning that you're called, okay, then he's going to improve. Then he's going to give you the resources. Then he's going to give you the people. So that gives me a lot of strength and hope, because sometimes we always think that like, oh, I don't know enough, or I can't do this because I don't have the resources, or this and that. But if you feel called to whatever, or whoever's listening, and you want to take that step in this industry or wherever, or go for that dream, like just know that if you're feeling that calling, it's for a reason. And once you accept is then when you become equipped with the things that you and the people that you will need. And that's exactly what my journey has been with Last Farewells. I'm non-technical. I'm first gen. I've never, like, nobody around me is at a business like this. And yet, like, so many blessings have come in the past 2 years. Maybe not financials at this point right now, but like so many different ways, so many different people's media, content creation, views, like all these things. So yeah, I'm praying for everyone out there, whoever's listening.
That was beautiful and fully received. Thank you so much for your words. Same to you. I thank your dad for having the wisdom to share those words with you that have changed not only your life, but the lives of so many, and will continue to, because we're not done with the Million Angels. They are working overtime. They are
This is
doing
the
their work.
111th podcast. Am I right? Okay, I asked
Yes.
for the 111th spot. I saw she done her 100 episode. We were meaning to do a podcast, but like 111, let's go. I just like the 111s, the 1111s.
Yes, and I love the way that you follow these signs and synchronicities. You don't question them, even when you got on the plane on the flight 100. What was it, 111? And then you got there at the 2220, and all these things,
Yeah,
all these little synchronicities.
I was definitely more into science probably before faith, but now it's kind of like a walk by faith, not by sight. So I
Yeah.
stopped asking for as many signs, because I was like, you know what, I need to have more faith, and that's been different. But it's good to have when the signs come, because the signs
Well, it's that
clear.
trusting that things will work out, and that
Yeah,
just like inner knowing and that faith that you have embraced so beautifully. So thank you for sharing
thank
all of
you.
it with us. It has been so powerful. I hope that all of you listening and watching are feeling what I'm feeling right now, because this is Estrella. You just feel like you're a person left better than you were an hour ago, since listening to this episode. So thank you. Thank you. I wish you all the best with Last Farewells and obviously everything you do. If people wanted to support Last Farewells as a company, because I believe that you're still seed funding, or I don't know if you want to say anything to that end, or if you can.
We were raising angel investment. I've paused it momentarily, but
Okay.
yeah, if we pick that back up, you'll see it on our Instagram account.
Well,
That's
if
where I'm.
you or somebody, an investor that would like more information, definitely visit their account, or the account as
Yeah.
well. And any final thoughts? I feel like you did a lot there, but like anything that you want to
No,
say before
those are
we
my
close
final
out?
thoughts.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I
good
said it
for
all.
today. I will ask you one final question. So, go back to that Estrella that got the news, right? Like after such a high, all of a sudden you get the news, and then you get this voicemail and listen to it for the first time. What would Estrella today say to the version of Estrella listening to her dad's message for the first time?
My head went to that song, "Just trust me, you'll be fine." And the montage of everything I've done. That's really the first thought that went in my head, because I don't think there would ever be enough words, the right words, but I think if I could go back to that person, I wish I could play them almost like a flash montage of my life, the adventures, the smiles, the memories, the birthdays, the cakes, my grandma, like a montage of what I've done in this past 11 years. She would have never believed it. at all. And I think it was just one of those things that I don't think I could tell you anything, even with faith, right? I don't think it was like everything happens at its time. Um, but I think if I could have just show that one content creator video of like, this is Estrella, like it'd be like, wow. And I would just be so happy for her because she'd be so excited to live.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Estrella. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for being you.
Yay, thanks. I love you.
That's it for today's episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Grief and Light podcast. I'd also love to connect with you and hear your thoughts and your stories. Feel free to share them with me via my Instagram page at Grief and Light, or you can also visit griefandlight.com for more information and updates. Thank you so much for being here, for being you, and always remember, you are not alone.